Welcome to Performance Boost 30. I'm Dr. David DeRose. This is week number 4 in our program. We're glad to have each one of you joining us as we talk about things that have happened over the course of the last week and to try to put you on a firm footing as we head forward. As we've done in previous episodes, I will begin with about 30 minutes of material sharing with you. Then we'll open it up for those of you who are joining us live to interact on the program. If you are watching on YouTube and want to interact, the way to do that is through Zoom. If you simply go to Performance Boost 30, the website, that's timelesshealinginsights.org/boost. If you're already registered for the program, you could just log on, use the Zoom link, and you can, well, take part in the dialogue that will occur shortly. So for right now, we're going to begin with some of the didactic material that we've got prepared for you. Then we'll open things up for your questions and comments. Like I said, it's good to have each one of you joining us for this live presentation. So this is session number 4 in our weekly sessions. If you've been joining us in real time in the summer of 2023, you realize that, well, we've been spreading things out a little bit. We've stretched things out. We took a week off last week. We're going to wait now several weeks before we have our next live episode. So week number 5 in quotes will be filmed on August 19th. So that's another Saturday evening at 7 p.m. And we hope a number of you can join us there. So if you've been going through it in real time, I know it's a bit delayed, but we're rolling this out a little bit more slowly. And if you've been keeping track, we're condensing these 1-hour videos into 30-minute segments. So that's what you'll find hopefully by the end of the summer. So once everything's rolled out, we've got the first few that have been edited that way. We're still working on the previous one. So tonight, for week number 4, if you're keeping track and keeping up with the videos, you have watched this past week through day number 21. So that's what this video presentation is going to especially support you through, especially kind of looking back as we've discussed at what's happened over the course of the last week. So days 15 through 21, maybe you had some great experiences, maybe some challenges. We want you to share those with the group. If you're joining us in real time right now, we'd love to hear your success stories, your challenges, maybe some pitfalls you ran into as you implemented day 15 through 21. If you're watching this on a video after it was recorded live, you're in a setting, hopefully, where you can share with at least one other person what your experience has been and talk about your successes as well as the challenges that you've had along the way. With that in mind, we've got another week ahead of us, actually about another 10 days in the program. And next week, you can see some of the topics. The first one is eat fast. So you notice the punctuation, very important there. We're not talking about bolting your food down, but we're speaking about the benefits of fasting. We're going to talk about some of that tonight as well. There's a whole mini stress seminar that we've worked into one of the last weeks of the program. So you can see there days 23 to 25. We're going to help you identify stressors, then hopefully eliminate some of those things that are really stressing you out. And, well, there's some things that you perhaps can't remove. Well, the good news is those things, we're going to try to help you harness those stressors. So that's all coming up in the next week. We'll talk about supplements, and we'll carry that theme throughout some of the final presentations, not only in week 4, but in the final week that includes a few days. So that's what we've got moving forward as far as Performance Boost 30. Tonight, we do especially want to talk about some of the things that have been challenges. And we know from experience, a lot of folks join many of our programs because among their goals is trimming down a bit. And at this point, when you get to day 15, that's right at the midway portion of the program. I like to think that it's especially strategic that we've got that program on trim down because there's a possibility that even after 2 weeks, a person may not have lost much weight, or they may have actually gained weight. I've talked with you in the past about one of the most common scenarios we see this in, and that is in young ladies during their reproductive years. If they start on a program kind of around their middle of their cycle, typically they're going to be putting on some water weight over the next week or two, and that can offset some of the gradual weight loss that you may have been accomplishing. The other thing that I like to remind folks of is when you're including physical activity as a part of your program, as powerful as physical activity is, one of the things that physical activity does is helps to build muscle mass. That's actually desirable, but if you're building muscle and you're not losing a lot of fat, your weight may not be changing that much. So just another thing to be aware of. And I'm actually very happy with that scenario. I see people over the years as I've worked with them on weight loss programs, I see them trimming down, being able to get into smaller clothes, but the actual number on the scale hasn't changed much. And the reason why is they've lost body fat, they've gained muscle mass, and that's actually advantageous because muscle mass drives metabolism. So this is something actually favorable. If you're carrying more muscle, you actually burn more calories even in your sleep. Well, there's some other things I wanted to share with you as it relates to weight control. Some very important things that I think are really worth highlighting, because so many times, it's easy for people to get discouraged in this aspect of the program. And what I especially want to talk with you about is something that, well, I'll be honest with you, a lot of folks seem to have problems with, and that is this challenge that we gave you on day 15. We say to people, if they're overweight, we want them to add another specific element to their daily program to help them trim down. And a lot of folks say, well, hey, if I knew what to add, then I probably wouldn't be on this program. So you're supposed to tell me what to do. Well, so tonight, I want to take a little bit of time and share with you some other things that you may not have come across in the video, or for that matter, you may not have seen in the handout if you downloaded that already. It is in the handout, incidentally, and that's why we're speaking about it right now. So what I want to look with you at is this really interesting dynamic of three things that we try to highlight in our book, The Methuselah Factor, upon which these Performance Boost 30 videos are based. The first strategy that I like to encourage people to implement when it comes to weight loss is to make clean breaks with problem foods and habits. And this is where the real power is. Cutting back is not powerful. Now, hey, don't misunderstand me. If you're eating 5 pounds of chocolate or a half gallon of ice cream every day, sure, cutting back on those things is likely to cause some change in your numbers. But as far as your long-term success, the real power is in making clean breaks with certain things. It frees you to develop new enjoyments. So that's a really key concept. And so if you can identify some things in your lifestyle that are not optimal, and you can leave them out. One of them that we've talked about before in this program is the sugar-sweetened beverages. We'll touch on that again, but if you could just get those out of your program, that can go a long way to helping you drop some pounds. A second item is increasing exercise. And yes, we've been talking about different exercise strategies as we've been going through the program, but there still may be room for you to kind of ramp things up a bit. The flip side is, though, you can exercise too much. So especially if you have orthopedic issues, diabetes. And the reason I mentioned diabetes is I've had patients over the years that are actually increasing their activity to levels that that are really not healthful. They're overdoing it, especially if they have neuropathy. They don't sense their feet and things. They could be damaging some things because they're just not getting feedback from anyone who can kind of help them monitor, because they don't have that indicator of pain to gauge things. So it's really important that you're watching your feet, things like that, if you have neuropathy, and gradually increasing activity is usually the safest approach. And again, if you have medical conditions, working with your healthcare providers is critical. This point here, forgetting about your goal weight. Some of you have engaged with me in other programs where we've spoken about weight loss. To me, one of the things that undermines many people in their quest to be trimmer and healthier is actually they get some arbitrary weight that they want to attain. And well, that may motivate you at first, but it in my experience sometimes is an unrealistic number, and it just sets you up for failure. So I try to de-emphasize the specific number and try to emphasize the healthy lifestyle habits. So you say, well, what are some of those habits? Some of you have engaged with us in other programs that we've offered with Timeless Healing Insights. One of them is a program that we call Fast 8. And I know we've got a few of our alumni who've especially been active and engaging with this program as we've been rolling it out. If you are just hearing about this for the first time, you've maybe heard it mentioned before, but have never engaged with the material, I really would encourage you to go ahead, go online, and go to that website that's projecting there, timelesshealinginsights.org/fast8, and register for the program. You don't have to go through all the modules, but at least register and download the free handout. It's over 60 pages long, got a lot of helpful pointers if you're trying to trim down. So with that in mind, I want to talk with you just a little bit about this important handout, because we've got a lot of tips in there that can really help you. So let's talk about this here. So these are principles that we included in the Fast 8 program. And these are some other weight loss strategies, things that you can prioritize that can help you trim down. And we're rolling this out both because day 15 spoke about trimming down, and then also day 22 coming up next week. The first module next week is on eating and fasting, that balance. So these are some of the fasts we've emphasized. This is one of my favorite ones, this leaf, stem, and flower fast. And the way we used it in the Fast 8 programs, we encourage people one meal a day to eat nothing except for leaf, stem, and flower vegetables at the beginning of that meal. We said you have to have one serving of a leaf, stem, or flower vegetable. So maybe you're going to have, some celery sticks, or you're going to have, a green salad, whatever it might be. That's the first thing that you eat for that meal. Not every meal of the day. Some people did do that, but the only request we had is one meal a day. We even said you could even take a day off. But leaf, stem, and flower fast, it's a powerful fast. We talked about fasting from overeating. And in that program, the Fast 8 program, we talked about learning to differentiate hunger from appetite. And if you could stop when your hunger is satisfied, that will keep you from overeating. We've talked about leaving off snacks. And by the way, so again, I'm telling you this now in this program because you may say I'm having trouble shedding the pounds that I hope to shed in this program. How can I do that? Well, you can fast from snacking, leave off the snacks, eat 2 or at most 3 times a day. What are other things you may want to leave out of your program if you're trying to optimize your weight? The fried foods. If you just left fried foods out of your program, this can be powerful. And then there's other kind of things that relate to balance. We were talking about fasting in the Fast 8 program, and you might say, well, some of these don't sound like a fast. Fasting from overwork or overactivity. Well, that's right. If you're not sleeping enough, that actually could be something that contributes to weight gain. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true on a physiologic basis. And then the other interesting things that we rolled out in that program that you may want to consider as you're going through Performance Boost 30 is just your mindset. If you focus on the negative, if you're being overly critical of yourself and other people, these kind of things can put you into a spiral. They can foster a mindset that makes it difficult to embrace new lifestyle practices and stick with them. We talked about the caloric beverages, like sugar-sweetened beverages. The best beverage to drink if you're trying to optimize your health is simply water. And then fasting from addictive substances, including problem foods. So some of these high sugar and high sodium foods are especially problematic when people try to control their consumption of them. Well, what I want to do at this point is share another few aspects that can help you, a few other strategies. If you're trying to say, what else could I add to help me trim down? You threw out this challenge on day 15. I'm still at a loss. Well, here's a few other things. You could fast after 3 p.m. Eating nothing after 3 p.m. has been consistently associated with weight loss. Following a 10-day Daniel fast, some of you may have heard of this. It's a plant-based eating program based on actually the Bible book of Daniel, Daniel chapter 1. And then the last principle, fasting from moderation. I know that sounds crazy, but I've found so many people over the years that say, oh, I'm just doing this in moderation. I'm just having sugar-sweetened beverages in moderation. I'm just using alcoholic beverages in moderation. By the way, caloric beverages, and whether you're talking about a beer or a glass of wine or a soft drink, all of these things have considerable amounts of calories. And if you're looking at weight reduction, all of those caloric beverages should be, if you want to be optimal, should be totally left off your list. Well, one of the themes of this program that we've been sharing is group support. And some of you, if you engage with a previous 30-day series that we had, we called it 30 Days to Better Health, also known as 30 Days to Natural Diabetes and High Blood Pressure Control. One of the people that we featured on that program was someone who I shared a clip from earlier in this series. Her name is Sheila Adams. And Sheila actually joined that previous series about 4 weeks into it, about the same time in the program that we're filming this. And she shared another novel way to get group support. She shared a blog that she was putting out. This was in the fall of 2021. I spoke with Sheila this week. We're going to try to get her actually to record a segment that will go along with the final produced version of week 4. We'll see if we can pull that off in the next few days. She wasn't able to join us for the live meeting tonight. But Sheila's blog is now, she had a longer address for it. It's now simplified, just thetrip.blog. So if you're already here at the end of 3 weeks of the program and you're not on this journey with anyone else, Sheila said, hey, jump on my blog, thetrip.blog, and I will engage with you. And she'll actually, she shares her journey. And in fact, what I did is I've got a short video where Sheila tells, back in the fall of 2021, she talked about how she was rolling out this blog. It's now available at thetrip.blog. You may see another website come up in this video, but this is the best way to access her blog. She's going to tell you a little bit about why she started it in this short video clip, and then I'll give you some other points, and then we'll come to your sharing after that. So right now, I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and we're going to navigate over to another screen with a video clip. So let's see if we can get that up and running for you. So that is definitely my goal for you. So let's see if we can do this. I think you'll enjoy Sheila, what she has to share. Okay. Let's see how we're looking here. Okay. We had that all queued up for you earlier, but right now it's acting like wants to make sure that I know that I don't totally rule the computer. Okay, we've gotten that message. Okay. This is very interesting. Okay. We'll try one other option here for us. Um, hmm. Okay, I think we're going to leave that for those of you that are highly motivated to watch at another time, unless this just starts surprising me and plays. It's not going to actually play. It worked fine when we tested it about 15 minutes ago, but we'll have that once we do the final production of this. But I did fortunately take some of Sheila's quotes and put those into a PowerPoint. And like I said, Sheila has told me she's happy to film. Since she released that blog, she told me she's lost another 50 pounds, and I thought it'd be really exciting for you to hear from her. But she's willing to help support anyone on the program. So let's come back to the PowerPoint slides. I'm just going to go ahead and share that screen with you because I've got some things from Sheila's blog there for you tonight. Okay. So like I said, Sheila, in this short video that we'll add to this presentation when we've got it put up in its shorter 30-minute format. So those of you that are on live and will be interacting here in a bit with us, your testimonies and things not likely to be included in that final program. In fact, I've told you they won't be, so you don't have to be inhibited from sharing anything personally. It will be up for a while though, because the live recording is put up kind of through the end of the summer till we have all the other content up. But we will make sure we get Sheila's testimony there. So again, if you want to engage with Sheila, go to the trip.blog, and here's her section for day 15 that we've been speaking about. There's actually a direct link there as well. You can go on her blog site and you can just interact. Say, Sheila, I had this challenge. DeRose has been telling me, I need someone to go through this program with, and I want to engage with you. So here's what I'm sharing. So, please take advantage of that. Let me tell you what Sheila shared for day 15. Wow, I can't believe this is day 15. It's time to trim down. In order for me to make changes and lose the amount of weight the first time, I had a plan. So Sheila, if you remember her story, she had gone through my book, the Methuselah Factor book, and then went through a video series, much like the one we're doing with you right now. So she first did the book, and then she said, well, I need another plan, okay? And the first plan she used, as I just explained, was from the book, The Methuselah Factor. It was a combination. She kind of tweaked it herself. She used some keto diet principles, vegetarian diet, and exercise. And she said she was still eating meat at that time, but she restricted her proteins got the red meat out, just chicken, fish, except for beef. She lost a total of 35 pounds in 90 days. And now she was going in the fall of 2021 through the 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure, Diabetes, and Blood Pressure program. And she decided to make another lifestyle change. And she started cutting back further on her meat proteins, and now had moved at that point onto just a plant-based eating program. So no meat. She was taking in 1,500 calories a day, and she was shooting to lose a pound to a pound and a half a week. And so since she's blogging in real time, she's sharing her journey. And so it's this kind of she's just kind of sharing a real experience of someone going through these Performance Boost 30 principles. They were the same principles that we used in that earlier series that was targeted just for diabetes and high blood pressure. This is a broader theme, a broader program that we're sharing. So let's move on to a few of the other daily challenges. I want to give you a few other pointers, and then we will take your questions. So day 16's challenge was this: follow a daily program of deep breathing exercises. You may not have done it as vigorously as this young man, but hopefully you tapped into the power of deep breathing. Deep breathing, extremely powerful. If you don't have the book, The Methuselah Factor, and didn't pick this up in your notes from the video, a lot of benefits to slow, deep breathing. And you can see some of them listed right there. So it actually, of course, increases blood oxygenation. It actually can help you lower your blood pressure. One of the real interesting things, we see a lot of people with edema, swelling in their legs, and deep breathing actually, by creating this negative or intrathoracic pressure, actually helps blood return from your legs to your heart. And it also does something, increases what we call vagal power. And this actually has some stress relieving benefits. So, a lot of people say, oh, take deep breaths when you're under stress. It's not just a means of getting you to focus on something other than the stressor. There's actually some kind of long-term stress relieving benefits that go along with deep breathing. Well, how do you do deep breathing? Many different strategies. We were asking people to focus on 6 times a minute. I've heard other people who train this, 4 times a minute. But the idea is you're really consciously slowing your breathing down, taking, these slow, deep breaths, using your diaphragm. That means if you're breathing correctly, your abdomen should be coming out when you're breathing in. Okay. So, you may want to look at some videos or something. If you say, well, my stomach goes in when I breathe in, well, that's you're not breathing correctly. So, and we say plan on at least 3 sessions daily that include at least 2 minutes of deep breathing. So when we open this up for your comments, I'd be interested to hear. Any of you been working on deep breathing exercises? And if so, how have you been finding it? So let's move on from there and talk about a few other things that we touched on in the program. And that is day 17, and that is dealing with sugar, avoiding hidden sugar. And we really encourage people to make a concerted effort to avoid those sugars that you may not be announcing their presence. It's not like it may not say, hey, banners may not be going off saying, hey, there's all kinds of sugar here, but sugar is hidden in so many places, and it's really deleterious for the things that optimize your circulation. So if you want to have the best circulatory health, when you eat more sugar, it tends to raise your triglycerides. That impairs your blood fluidity. That's what we call the Methuselah factor, hemorrheology. And one of the worst culprits is this high fructose corn syrup. I didn't realize this at first, but learned a while back that it actually is one of the factors that raises uric acid significantly. So uric acid is the compound that can trigger attacks of gout, can increase your likelihood of forming kidney stones. And you guessed it, uric acid also directly impairs blood fluidity. So all of these things are things that you want to be mindful of when it comes to really getting rid of the sugar out of your program. So just really want to encourage you to do that, okay, as much as possible. And so that would mean consider avoiding things like your sugar-sweetened beverages, candies, prepared foods. There's all kinds of ingredients that are sugars. They don't have to say sugar, but a lot of them do have sugar in it. But even your concentrated sweeteners like agave and honey, you really want to be careful with. One of the last areas I wanted to touch on with you is some of we started getting into some of the supplements. I did want to project this for you first, though, in closing our time speaking about sugar. And this is an important graphic. If you have the Methuselah Factor book, you have this handy, but really important to realize what we're talking about when it comes to the ideal amount of sugar in a food if you're trying to limit your sugar consumption. So sure, you could read labels and not eat anything with sugar, but for some people that's not realistic. There may be a little bit of sugar and a tomato sauce, or there could be a huge amount of sugar. Well, how do you know? And you can actually compare it on the ingredient label. So if you look here on this nutrition facts label, this particular one, you'll see the total carbohydrates, 24 grams. You want to divide that number by the grams of sugar. And so we did that here for you, 24 divided by 3. Not that you probably needed any help to do that. That comes out to 8. And we're saying shoot for foods that have a 5-to-1 or larger ratio. So this is 8-to-1. And that would be an acceptable thing on this program for the remainder of the program if you're trying to watch your sugar intake. So in closing, I did want to share a few things with you about magnesium. Magnesium is especially powerful. Day 20, we encourage you to depend on your dentist and maximize magnesium. Dental health, extremely important for optimal blood fluidity. It's amazing if you're not taking care of your dental health, just how that can increase your risk of a host of problems, from heart attacks to strokes. Really, the mouth, if you've got unhealthy gums, that affects your circulatory health. So definitely, if you've been putting off that dental visit, this is the time to get serious about it. On day 20, though, I realize a lot of people, they do have good dental health. What do we have for them? They say, I already see my dentist, my dental hygienist every 6 months. What do you got for me on day 20? Well, regardless of whether dental health is something you're strong in or not, I wanted to include magnesium as well. Magnesium is just incredibly powerful. It has migraine headache preventive benefits. It's been associated with lower risks of diabetes, lower risks of sudden death. It has a heart rhythm stabilizing effect. It's a really important compound. A lot of people are low in magnesium. When I check magnesium levels in patients, they're often low. Just did it the other day on a patient. She had a low level. And many of these people may be on diuretics, but they may not be. So diuretics, water pills, often cause magnesium loss. A lot of people know they cause potassium loss, but they're not aware that magnesium also suffers. So one of the things that we encourage with magnesium intake is, we talked about it in our book, 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control, because magnesium has documented blood pressure lowering effects. And we were recommending that people take at least 300 to 400 milligrams of what we call elemental magnesium a day. So you can't just say, oh, the magnesium supplement is 500 milligrams. You have to say, well, what supplement is it? Because different ones have different amounts of elemental magnesium. You have to compare that. If you don't know how to do it, ask the pharmacist. If you're picking these up in a drugstore or something, say, well, how much elemental magnesium is here? For example, magnesium oxide, 500 milligrams of magnesium oxide is 300 milligrams of elemental magnesium. And if you want to get your magnesium in the form of milk of magnesia, 1 tablespoon of Phillips milk of magnesia, common brand, that's 500 milligrams of elemental magnesium. So just a few hopefully helpful facts, things that you can do to boost your magnesium intake. So those are some of the things I wanted to share with you this evening. So we're going to go ahead and transition to your questions at this point. If you're not watching in real time, then we encourage you to engage with your group. Okay, and that group could be a group that's watching this video right now together. It could be people that are sharing this in another setting. So whatever you're doing, I encourage you to engage with others. Okay, well, it is time to talk together, and I know some of you have been sharing in the chat. So we're going to first go to some of the things that have come through in the chat, and then we'll hear from you as well. So okay. So basically, Dr. DeRose, what brand of plant-based vitamin D supplement do you recommend? So yeah, vitamin D is an important supplement. We find many people are low in vitamin D. Vitamin D is kind of an interesting one. We talk about plant-based versus, derived from, or highly refined from animal sources. Some vitamin Ds historically have been refined from lanolin, which is obtained from sheep's wool. And the question is, well, if you purify the vitamin D, so it's just what we call cholecalciferol, is this an animal product? We say, well, it came from an animal, and some people want to avoid it for that reason. You can use the plant source of vitamin D, which is ergocalciferol. That's D2. So the animal source, D3. Some people think that D3 may be more beneficial than D2. It does seem to be absorbed a bit better. So I would say, there's you could read a lot of discussion about this. So for bone health, from what I've seen, they seem to be pretty similar. But if you're equivocal, you're not sure what to do, D3 is what your body makes. And so whether it's synthesized or whether it's derived from a highly purified animal source, the D3, you may be better off getting it there. Another historical source of B3 that we mentioned is cod liver oil. So you can get it from a variety of sources like that. Okay, so let's talk about a few other comments that are coming through. Early in the program, on day one, we talked about being bold. And hopefully you've been being bold in the program. And when you see a challenge like to exercise more, you don't see how little you can do, but within judicious limits, especially having talked about over-exercise in this segment, within judicious limits, you're trying to maybe kind of push the envelope. When we talk about grabbing some new weight loss strategies, you don't just choose the thing that's easiest. Having said that, also on day one, we talked about visiting the bank, calling the bank. And we have someone here sharing that they went to donate blood 2 weeks ago and they couldn't because they were told that their iron level was too low. Their hemoglobin was at 10.2. This is one of the things I love about blood banks. They're not going to take your blood if it would be detrimental to you, if you don't have enough blood to share, if you will. And in fact, some of the benefits of blood donation are thought to relate to keeping us from iron excess. So if you go to the blood bank and they say, hey, you're a little bit anemic, or, you don't meet our criteria, a lot of labs that cutoff will be somewhere around 12 for a hemoglobin, then this is not a bad thing necessarily. It's good that they didn't take your blood. And it's also maybe beneficial that your hemoglobin is running a little bit lower. Now, having said that, if you're a woman during your reproductive years, this is often totally normal because you have a monthly loss of blood. If that's not your case, and you're running a bit anemic, I would say you want to think seriously about having some intestinal screening to look for hidden signs of blood loss. So we often find mild anemia is a sign of maybe a bleeding polyp or an early ulcer in the stomach, something like that. So it is important to follow up with this. So if you, like I said, if you're a woman during your reproductive years, you tend to run a bit anemic. Usually that's just a physiologic anemia. And some people think this is actually protective. One of the reasons that women have less cardiovascular disease, they've attributed to these lower iron levels through life because of losing iron during their reproductive years and excess iron levels being deleterious. So just kind of giving you a little bit of balance there. Let's move on to a few of these other questions. I want to make sure I'm not missing any, but the next one is, I mentioned someone who had a B12 deficiency with tingling. I have been having tingling in my back and itchiness. I do not take B12, but will be starting to do so. Which source is best, and could back tingling be linked to B12 deficiency? So vitamin B12 is an extremely important B vitamin. We need very, very small amounts of it. And we have the ability, unlike many of the B vitamins that we pretty much need on a daily basis, B12 can be stored, and we can have storage forms of B12 that last us for months or years. But once we run low enough on B12, a number of things then can begin to happen. we can experience some mild neurologic changes. We can end up becoming anemic. So it's not just iron that can cause anemia. Interestingly, if you have a pure iron deficiency anemia, you'll tend to have smaller red blood cells. But if you have a pure B12 deficiency anemia, may sound surprising, but you end up with an anemia with larger red blood cells. And so that's, we don't often see that. I see sometimes people with very low B12 levels and they're not anemic. So, and this is presumably because they're eating folic acid, which often, it's another B vitamin that can kind of mask the hemoglobin changes that can occur with B12 deficiency. So neurologic changes can occur, but you can't rely on them. So a person can't say, well, hey, I feel fine. If I start having tingling or start losing my balance, then I'm going to start taking B12. B12 can cause irreversible neurologic changes. Now, the good news early on, I mean, I've seen many patients. I think of a fellow that I saw some years ago, who's very low B12 levels, having neurologic symptoms, and they reversed. We got him on a good B12 program. Sometimes what I like to do, in fact, I just saw a patient in the last week or two. We were wondering about his or her B12 level. And I said, well, while you're here in the office, we can give you a shot of B12 because this person was low in the past. And I said, but since you're taking a supplement, if we give you a shot, then we can't check your blood level. I mean, your blood level will be sky high because we just gave you an injection. Even if we check it out a week later. So if we want to see if you're absorbing enough B12 from your supplement, let's just take a blood level. So that's what we chose to do. So as far as B12 supplements, for the average population, I tell people, just get an inexpensive one, whatever you get most economically. I recommend that they chew it or dissolve the B12 in their mouth. It seems to be absorbed best if you do that. There are some people with other problems where we may recommend what we call a methylcobalamin or a hydroxycobalamin. There's different forms of B12, but for practical purposes, most people do fine. Just get an inexpensive B12 supplement, chew it or dissolve it in your mouth, and this is often adequate. So again, bottom line message, inexpensive B12 supplement, chew it or dissolve it in your mouth, and that's usually perfectly adequate. Let's go on to the next question here, and this is here. In addition to Sheila's blog, is it possible to interact online with others who are on this journey to provide support for one another, share ideas, etc.? How about a group email? And I'm happy if you would like to. What I'm going to do is I'll put right now my email in the chat. So let me do this for you. Let's see if I can do this. My device is acting like it's got a mind of its own tonight. Okay, so my email is Dr. DeRose at compasshealth.net. Okay, so we're going to put that in there, if I can spell it right. Dr. DeRose at compasshealth.net. And if you want to be in a group, at least in this real-time event, even after the fact, if we actually put this in the final video, anyone who's watching this, if you want to reach out to me, say, I'd like to be in a support group, an online support group. I will tell you something that we've been talking about just lately. It's always, support groups are always kind of tricky. So, and let me tell you what the tricky part is. So I really believe in holistic support groups. And that means we like to do things that support people mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, emotionally. And, we've done different types of support groups. I've worked with a number of them over the years. And because of that kind of broad range of things, when we did the Fast 8 program, for example, we had a support group that also used spiritual elements. And we did it from a Christian Bible-based perspective. That's a perspective that I share. That's my orientation. But I know there's a lot of people who will engage with this content who don't come from that perspective. But I know if we don't do things on a broad level, we lose some of the power. And so if they say, hey, listen, I'm Muslim, I don't particularly I've been in some Christian support groups and this is not for me. I mean, I respect that. If you're an atheist. So this program, this General Performance Boost 30 program, is designed for people across the spiritual spectrum. But why I'm telling you this is because there's a Christian, there's actually a Christian church that's been talking about, they've engaged with some of the stuff we've done in the past, and they're wanting to kind of be a platform in the fall of 2023 for like a support group that actually, they're talking about maybe going through some, Bible-based topics or things. So if you're interested in that, let me know. If that doesn't meet your needs, if you say, hey, I'd like to do this from a secular perspective, I'm willing to, host a Zoom event, just let me know. Okay. So just let me know if that's something that you're interested in. Okay. So let's right now go to this next one here, and this is, you said that blood pressure should be taken about heart height. Yeah, so you put the cuff on at about heart height. That's exactly right. And I noticed that when I took my blood pressure with my arm down below my heart at about a 45-degree angle, it read 136-ish over 62. But when I raised it above my heart at about a 10-degree angle, it was 104 over 50. And that's true, because what's going to happen is gravity is going to either, you want to get the accurate blood pressure is when it's at the heart level. So if you put your arm way up here, I mean, I'm exaggerating, of course, it's going to tend to be lower. And if it's, way down low, it's going to be, much, if you will, higher. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It doesn't have any bearing on your blood fluidity or anything like that. Okay. So let me see what other questions we've got here. Okay. I lost 26.9 pounds with Fast 8, and I am thrilled to have gone from a size 14 to a size 6. I'm wondering if the loose skin I now have will eventually go away, and does exercise help that happen? So kind of the rule of thumb we have with rapid weight loss is we don't get too worried about the excess skin in the short term. So we usually say, it depends on the person, but sometimes we'll say, wait at least 12 to 18 months and kind of see where things equilibrate. And, if there is a lot of sagging skin and all, then there is an option to, you could consult with a plastic surgeon or something. I know a lot of people don't want to go that route, but the point is, and just kind of see if it's, exercise, the question about exercise is always beneficial. Whether it will, depending on where that skin is and what areas you're toning, it's a little bit, can be a little bit hard to predict. So, but that is a great observation. And I'm just really excited about that. In fact, I'm so excited about it, I'm going to try to multitask and see if I can actually highlight this encouraging comment and save it and stick it in a place for posterity, disassociated from the person's name. Not that they may not be happy to share that with the world, but I'm just always happy to hear success stories. So I'm going to just stick that in a place where I can refer to it. Okay, so I would
use my name. It'd be fine.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate your good spirit. Okay, well, how about any of you that want to share something? We're just going to kind of open
One
things
more
up.
question, David.
Oh,
that
one
you
more
missed
question.
there.
What did I miss? This is my wife trying to help me.
The last
What-
one.
What is it?
Girls, what dose of CoQ10 do you recommend for someone on a low dose statin? Read about this in your BP book.
Oh, okay. So if you have the book 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control, and I actually do have a copy of it on my smart device, which just happens to be sitting within arm's reach. Chapter 12 in that book is all about supplements that can help blood pressure. So it's chapter 12 in the book, 30 Days to Natural Diabetes and High Blood Pressure Control. And nowadays, you know that these resources are available in electronic format. So I actually have a Kindle version of the book. And the nice thing about that is whenever I have my phone with me, I also have my book, as well as a lot of other people's books. So one of the forms of CoQ10 that we talk about is called ubiquinone. Ubiquinone. Let me spell that for you. UBIQUONE. Ubiquinone. And I spelled it wrong. Okay. Yeah. Ubiquinone. Okay, I'm doing better here. Boy, I'm not a bad speller usually, but you know how to put the pressure. I'll tell you what we're going to do here.
UBIQUINONE, is it? I'm guessing.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully you're not writing this down or transcribing it, although YouTube will be kind enough to do that for us. So if you go, if you're in that chapter 12 of the book, it's actually, I'm just navigating there. It's on page 249 and continuing from there. But we talk about CoQ10 and about ubiquinone, which is spelled UBIQUINONE. Also, ubiquinol is often how you'll find it, ubiquinol. And so what we recommend in the book, 300 to 400 milligrams of CoQ10 on a daily basis. It's usually like 200 milligrams twice a day. If you're using the ubiquinol, you can use as little as 60 to 100 milligrams a day. So that would be like 50 milligrams twice a day. Okay, so the ubiquinol is more potent. Okay, so Stacy, did you have something that you were going to share, a question you're going to ask, or experience you're going to relate?
If somebody else wants to, if they need to say something, they can go first. I don't know if somebody else wanted to say anything.
Okay, I see Chris. Chris, go ahead. Oh, Chris, you're muted. You're muted, Chris. You got to unmute yourself. So look in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. There you go.
Hear me now? Okay, I have a question about weight loss and genetics. What you think the correlation is? 1 second. Sorry about that.
Okay.
The reason I ask is because my grandmother was 4'11", and she weighed just under 300 pounds. And I weigh 175 and I'm 5'2". And the reason I'm asking this is I belong to a farm food share, which we've done for 10 years. I have a rowing machine that I use. I have a Needak rebounder that I use. I have a dog that I walk 3 miles a day. And during that walk, I live in a small country town with a lot of hills. And that's where I do a lot of my deep breathing. And the scale doesn't really budge for me. And but I'm really happy where I am. I'm grateful where I am because I had endometrial cancer and long-term Lyme for 10 years. So this program is so fabulous to me because I had to research myself all the information that you're giving me because you weren't there for me 10 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
I wish I knew you. I would have been thrilled. That would have been a wow moment for me. But what I'm saying is I think that I'm eating correctly. I have increased my beans because I do the Rancho Gordo thing. And I think this is absolutely wonderful. And I know in my heart it's top notch because it's what I had to figure out on my own. And I really can't lose weight. Oh, I also do the strength training class, usually once a week with my library through Zoom. And so I just wonder if you could speak just briefly about genetics. I just want to uncover everything I can. But I just want to hear a little bit about genetics, if you have any data or anything that you could share with me so that
Sure,
I can
no.
put things into perspective a little bit more, because I don't really know what else to do.
No, I'm very glad for what you shared. And we actually spoke a fair amount about this in the Fast 8 program. And, you may want, when we finish this program, you may actually want to, catch some of that material. But I will kind of put in a nutshell my perspective on it, and I think what's borne out by the literature, and that is there are a variety of factors. Genetics is just one of them that actually affects our long-term weight. Another one is early life history. That includes intrauterine factors. So what was happening when you were in the womb, and it, everything from your mother's blood sugar control to her stress levels. So basically, we don't start out on an equal footing. And then in our early, childhood and things, different factors, things that can predispose us to be a different body weight as we get older. So that's why one of the things I mentioned in that day 15, as we talked about tonight, is forget about your goal weight, because a lot of people only set themselves up for failure. You shared with me a story, Chris, where you have relatives that shorter than you weighed considerably more. If you weren't doing all the good things that you were doing, I mean, you may weigh through your 350, So I don't know what your ideal weight is. In fact, there's no one that knows what your ideal weight is. In the Fast 8 program, I tell people, here's my definition of an ideal weight. It's what you weigh when you're on an ideal program. And so the idea is we switch the focus away from some arbitrary, table or BMI, and we say, let's focus on being healthy, being on a healthy lifestyle. And yeah, as you're going through this program, if you say, hey, here's some things that I could ramp up. And if you do it and you lose another 5 or 10 pounds, well, great. But if you don't, and you're healthier and you're making healthier, changes, I just love your story, because there's too many people that I meet that say, oh, well, I'm not doing good and I'm discouraged because, I looked at the table and I'm 5'2" and I should weigh 110. Say, well, when did you weigh 110? You say, well, when I was 8. I'm saying, well, come on, you're not going to weigh 110. Yeah. So I think you've connected a lot of the dots, and I would not be concerned at all about the scale. I would just keep on the journey that you're on, just trying to, be on a really healthy program, and don't let anyone, shame you, or don't shame yourself, because you're on a successful program.
I think one of my biggest problems is no matter how much I exercise or eat healthy, my diastolic number still pretty much, sometimes it's 86, but it's generally around 90. So, but I was going to add something. I was born 10 weeks early, and I'm 65 years old. So in 57, I was a 2-pound infant, and my mother lost 2 sons because, I'm a DES daughter. You know what I'm saying? So maybe some of those issues are related.
No, you definitely had your share of early life stresses. So I'm excited by your story, Chris. Thanks for sharing, and we appreciate you being with us. Let me do this. I'm going to stay on for a while. So for those of you that have other questions or want to stay on with the group, by all means. I see there's some other things that have come through the chat. We've been trying to kind of wind things up in an hour for those of you that carved out an hour for this program. So let me just remind you where we're headed with these live sessions. So our next meeting for quote, week number 5. And I'm saying in quotes because obviously this is not in real time. We've rolled this out slowly because we know some people over the summer, they're not able to go through a 30-day program consecutively. Maybe some of you have, and that's great. But we're going to actually record and do the live segment on August 19th. So it's Saturday night, 7 p.m., August 19th. That will be number 5. And that will bring us all the way through day 28 of the program. You say, well, why don't you just wind it up? Because we're going to have what we're calling a kind of a graduation program. That will be the week 6 session. And that will be filmed on actually Labor Day weekend. So I know it's a busy weekend for a lot of people. You may not be able to jump on in real time, but our final Performance Boost 30 live session will take place on September 2. Now, if you're with me, let me know if you're interested in that kind of a spiritually based support group. I think there's a good chance that that's going to happen launching sometime in September. If you have an interest in that. So it will be, it's going to be an interesting group if we do this, and I'll talk more about it after we close out here officially at pretty much right here at 8 o'clock. So we're going to wind up right now, and I'll stay by for those of you who want to stay by. If you wanted to catch just the main content, we've tried to cover that up to this point. I will stay on for your questions. We will try to condense this all into a 30-minute presentation that will be available long term. But we're glad each one of you joined us for the live session. So have a good evening, continued success to you throughout the summer, and we'll look forward hopefully to seeing a number of you back with us August 19th for week number 5. Have a good night.
David, there's a couple of the comments. Are you going to address those afterwards?
Yeah, so I'm going to go to those, then we're going to go to Stacy.
Three other comments, yeah.
Yeah, so someone, this is another church or faith-based group that's having a series, evangelistic series coming up in October. Do you have short clip videos to share? So what we have used for programs like that, we actually had a program here about an hour and a half from where I live that wanted to use these Performance Boost 30 videos. We hadn't released them like we had free. They were available for purchase. And so this church actually used those as kind of the platform for their 30-day program.
Those videos are still available for purchase if somebody wanted to buy the DVD set. I mean, it's very reasonable, and you could just play them in the church, right?
Yeah. So basically, you're welcome to just queue up these videos. You know, once you've gone through the program, now you have access to them. You could just queue them from your device or your computer. The resolution may be better on the DVDs. I don't know, but we do have a DVD product too if you don't, want to be dependent on the internet and stuff. So you can order them. Our corporate website is compasshealth.net. So compasshealth.net. If you go there to our resources, we have videos. You can digitally download things. We have our books and different things there. So you can use it that way, but you don't need any permission to air it. You don't need a license. You don't have to tell me you're using it. So what we did, I was going to tell you though about this program. This particular church, they actually had me come down and do some meetings before they had their Bible series. And so we did some meetings on blood pressure and diabetes and other things for their community. And then we invited people in their community to go through this 30-day program. So we actually ran this program. So for example, if your church, and we can help you do this, I'll put it in the website. So what we have right now is we have a special option where anybody can use our materials free. But if you said, we want to have a group of people in our community that goes through this program, and we want to be able to keep track of them, communicate with them, we can set you up with your own special landing page. It's like a website, but it has to be integrated with all our automation, with the daily emails and things like that. You can't just, put something on your website. It won't work. It won't interface. So, but we can set you up with that. And the way you do it, I'm going to put it in the chat. It's www.timeless Healing Insights.org/community. And so there is a nominal charge for us. We have an IT group that'll set this up for you. It's like $200. They'll set this all up. They give you all kinds of advertising materials, things that you can print out, business cards, a whole variety of things. You invite people to engage with this program, and then you support the program during the evangelistic series. So that's what we did. We'd show occasionally, depending, some of the 7-minute videos, 6 or 7 minute videos, we'd show them sometimes before the evangelistic meeting. And then you can once a week have this support group, just like we're doing. We'll have these, by September, we'll have these 30-minute videos. You can show the 30-minute video, have people come an hour early, and then engage with them. Say, hey, every Saturday night or Sunday night, an hour before the Bible meeting, we'll have this. And what we did, it was in the Indianapolis area. We invited people from the community to come to the health program. We said, if you want to stay for the Bible meeting, you can stay. Some of them did that. Others just came for the health program. So we did it in the same venue. And some people, they wanted the health program. They weren't interested in a Bible program. So we had one guy who was come and sit in the front row all the time. He'd come for the health program, and then he'd leave when it was the time for the Bible program. And that's fine. I mean, so they were helping their community with two things. They kind of made it a double feature. So it was a health event and a Bible event. And they kind of were advertising the program. We didn't call it Performance Boost 30 then. We called it the Methuselah Factor, because it was based on the book. But they would, before a lot of the evangelistic presentations, they'd show one of the videos. They didn't show all 30 of them. But so people were getting some of that exposure. And then they said, hey, if you want to join the program, you'd go on the website. So you'll have your own website. Here's the website for, let's say you're living in Seattle, Washington. Go to, it'll be a website like timelesshealinginsights.org/Seattle. So you go there, and when you sign up, then you're part of our group, and you can communicate with them. You'll have all if you're the host group in your community, you can reach out to those people. They'll, if they want to share their phone numbers with you, whatever, and they can be coming to the evangelistic venue. You can support them there, or some people can be doing it online at home. But you have this group support element. You do it, you spread it out during the evangelistic meetings, and we're going to have 6 modules, so 6 weeks apart. Some evangelistic meetings will run for 6 weeks. Others may run for 4 weeks. And you say, well, we'll do it back at our church or wherever the last 2 weeks and finish up the program. So, okay. So someone else mentions here, okay. So a few questions. So what's going to happen with this spiritual support group? So yeah, I mentioned it's something we've been discussing. So some of you have engaged with different things that we've done with either Timeless Healing Insights or with Compass Health. And we've had a number of people saying they'd like something that's ongoing. We've done some online spiritual support things, and I work especially closely with a faith community in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So they've expressed an interest in doing something online. So I haven't quite figured out what this looks like. We're talking with different people to see what would meet people's needs. But one of the things that we have been talking about lately, I'll tell you one of the possibilities, and is one of the books of the Bible that kind of across even the spiritual spectrum that people have related to is the book of Psalms. And one of the things we've talked about is to doing a series on the book of Psalms. We're actually going through different Psalms and looking at kind of healing insights from the Psalms. So that's one of the things. Another discussion was about the book of Acts. Now that's kind of a very different book, but one of the things about Psalms is a lot of, I think, themes that people can relate to, of course, whether they're of a Jewish background. This was their, the Jewish hymnal, if you will. It's what, some Bible scholars say. They say, well, that's what, the Hebrew hymnal. That was what the book of Psalms was. So people from Hebrew or Christian, Jewish or Christian background would relate to that. But the principles there are timeless. The book of Acts, what some people like about that is it's stories, and so it's narratives. And although it's especially of a spiritual nature, it lends itself to practical community engagement. So one of the things that's unique to me about the book of Acts is it's about how God works through the early church. And so if we're looking at community support, some people have thought, well, this would be an ideal book to go through. So those are a couple of things we've talked about. Another thing we did in a live setting is there's a book out called Depressed People of the Bible. And a lot of people say, well, that sounds like a real downer. Why would I? But it looks at kind of practical mental health things. It's actually written by a fellow from a Jewish background. He's kind of like a cross between a rabbi and a Christian pastor at this point. He has a congregation. I think they're mostly Messianic Jews out of Florida. Jeff Zaremski is his name. Some of you may have heard the name. But so we've talked about some different things. Anyway, so you can let me know if some of you are interested in it. You say, definitely not this, definitely not that. I'd be interested in this. My email address, I gave that to you, Dr. D. Rose, DRD Rose at compasshealth.net. Compass like giving you direction, health like not being sick.net. Someone's interested in purchasing for a Bible work or medical missionary work or courses that I'm teaching. So we do have resources. Any of our resources, if you're looking at our books or things, we offer a 40% discount if you buy 5 or more of any title. So it's kind of a standard, wholesale discount like for a bookstore, but we offer that to anyone. So if you said, oh, we want to use the Methuselah Factor book, and we want 10 of them, the list price is $18.95. You can do the math. So it's 40% off $18.95 for the Methuselah Factor, and you do have to pay shipping. So that's the only other charge. Okay. Okay, so Stacy, you had something you wanted to share, and you were gracious enough to let some of the other folks get their questions in. So what's on your mind tonight?
Well, I think there's a conspiracy in the grocery store that it's either sugar or salt that's in everything.
Oh.
And I can't make everything from scratch. So I'm trying really hard to, pay attention to both sugar and salt. But I'd say the salt is what I'm amazed at, how much salt, even in hummus or even soy milk or almond milk or something. It's like, what? So anyway, I'm trying, I'm reading labels, and so that's just one thing. I don't know what else. And I kind of live in an area that, we have grocery stores, but for like a really large chain Whole Food type place, I'd have to go over an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a pain, but I'm trying to just be mindful of it. And I do make hummus and things, but sometimes I just don't have time. And so, but I'm trying. And so that is a little bit frustrating, but other than that, and speaking of salt or sodium or whatever, my blood pressure, this is kind of a good thing. I have lost 25 pounds through Fast 8, but
wow, praise the Lord.
This is what's weird though. I'm not like Bonnie. I have not dropped any sizes, but I feel different in my pants and things. But I feel like I'm close, like I'm getting to maybe by the end of the summer, I'll be in a different size, but I don't know. And this was a big deal to me because I'm visual too. And I went to my cardiologist. I'm looking at my notes. And because honestly, because you were talking about the blood pressure, if it's too low, it can be bad. I'm on blood pressure medicine, and they cut it in half because my blood pressure has been too low. But they had a chart that I could look at, and I could see my weight from the beginning of the year all the way till now, and it's steady decline, including my BMI, which that really encouraged me, because even though I know, because I'm the one that gets on the scale, but to see it like that, I took a picture of it and I thought, wow, and I was able to talk to the doctor about the Methuselah factor. And I said, when I'm done with the book, I'm going to give it to you if you want it. So I don't know. I'm excited about it. I don't know if I should be concerned about not dropping any weight. I mean, I'm dropping the weight, but I'm still in the same size.
No, I'm not concerned about that, because I mean, part of it, has to do, I mean, we all carry weight differently.
Mhm.
Sizes run differently too, depending on, what kind of brands and things that you wear. And, as you tone up too, like we're talking about. So, if you're losing more fat and water weight, that's good too. But, as you tone up too, and as you stick with an exercise program, often we do see people, their size going down. But again, you're doing great. You're implementing healthy lifestyle changes. You're seeing results. So yeah, again, don't let the scales or the size or
Oh,
some of these artificial things
yeah.
discourage you, because you're just another success story.
Can I ask one more thing about
Go
B12?
for it. Yeah.
Okay, I do take B12 and the chewable. I don't necessarily have a problem with B12, but there was either something I heard, I don't know if it was here or where it was, but somebody I think they had like low absorption of B12.
Mhm.
But how does taking B12, if you don't absorb it, how does that help?
Yeah, so basically, that's why, like I was telling you about this patient who thought they were taking this really good B12, and I said, well, let's check your blood level. Let's see if your B12 level is good. I mean, the B12 level was really low, like a year ago, and he said he was supplementing. So I said, well, let's take a look. Let's check your blood level. So, yeah, that's what I'll do. And someone might say, well, could my blood level be good, my tissue level be low? Well, there's, if we're really worried, there's, esoteric tests we can do. I say esoteric, I mean, for a lay person, but there's certain markers we can do, homocysteine. There's, other markers that if you're really low on B12 in your tissues, even though you're, you might have an adequate blood level, but I don't get worried about that in the average person. So, yeah, the best thing to do is if you're taking a supplement, you have your B12, your serum, your blood B12 level checked. If that's good, unless there's some reason for concern, then I don't really get all worried about it.
Well, the other thing is the B12, like you were mentioning, I mean, it does help to take it typically because absorption is the main issue for most people. But if you take enough, it does help you to typically absorb more so that you're getting enough overall. In other words, if you're taking, even people who have pretty, lower absorption, they found that if they take, a couple thousand micrograms a day, if someone's really low, that will often have them take that much a day. And that tends to help them to absorb enough to raise up their levels. Because out of a 1,000 microgram tablet, typically you're only absorbing maybe 4 to 5 micrograms out of that 1,000 microgram tablet that you take. But
Yeah,
if you take enough, it can help you to get what you need.
Yeah, if you're not aware, my wife, who was just speaking, is also a physician, and yeah, what she's saying is true. Yeah, we can. We often lose our ability to absorb B12 efficiently as we get older. It's a very complex absorption process, but you can kind of overwhelm the lack of carriers by high intake, like she said, in the range of 2,000 micrograms a day. And if that sounds like a huge amount, that's only 2 milligrams. It's still a really tiny amount in the grand scheme of things. Okay.
The reason that it's important to chew it well or dissolve it in your mouth is because there's a substance in your mouth that has to bind in the saliva, that has to bind with it in order for it to bind with another substance in your stomach, the intrinsic factor, in order for it to be absorbed in the distal small intestine, and it's kind of a simplified version. There's probably a lot more to it than that even, but that does seem to make a big difference if you chew it or dissolve it in your mouth.
Okay, so I think we're about to finish up here. I do want to encourage you, if you're interested in that, in some kind of a spiritual support group, please send me an email. And if you have any preferences, or if you say, hey, all the stuff you talked about sounded really boring, but I'm going through a book right now, or here's something that we did once that helped me so much. We're at this point, we're open to hearing your suggestions. And it's not like if you are involved with something, you've got to be at it every week. I know right now some of the early discussion has been to do it at 7 o'clock on Tuesday nights. That's one time that was discussed. So that may be if that's a bad time for everyone, let me know that too. So, but we'll give you a little bit more lead time before we plan anything. So nothing's going to happen until September. But let us know. So make sure you send me an email though, so I can kind of collate what people are thinking and whether there's interest. Someone else was talking with me this past week about different support groups and things, and I said, well, we could do hundreds of support groups, but if you only have one person in each group, it kind of gets to the point where you say, probably not the best use of time, even though every individual is important. So if you get something that's too niche, or niche, if you like to pronounce it that way, you end up with, not too many people being interested. So, okay, I think we're going to wind up on that note. Again, thank you each for your participation. It's your involvement that helps us kind of keep grounded in the real world. August 19th, we'll look forward to hopefully to seeing some of you. I know others of you may have conflicts, but August 19th, 7 p.m. Eastern, will be our next segment. Our final segment, which will be kind of a quote graduation and send off, and we'll hope to announce whatever we've got as far as a follow-up. That will be September 2nd. Okay, have a good night, continued good summer, continued success as you follow Performance Boost 30. Have a good night.